I'm not doing good following the rules anyway. And it's okay to experiment. I'll try things and forget what I even did. Hello, welcome to Yellow Door Urban Homestead. I am Asia, and I'm an urban gardener growing in a small space out in my backyard. And today, I'm just out here, y'all. I did not have a lot left to do. I got some stuff done yesterday, though. So, one of the things that, this is not a Teachy channel, right? But I also don't have a lot to do out here, but I do want to keep coming to y'all, showing y'all the garden, talking about things. So, I decided I am going to do not Teachy, but just kind of talking about what has worked for me this week, and then if I have things to do, which, by the way, that compost pile over there that you probably can't see that well, that's coming down this weekend. I actually tried to do it myself yesterday, but that compost pile has been up for maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe even longer, and the T-post would not come out. And I actually have a T-post driver, which as I understand it, but I could be completely wrong, I should be able to push that around, loosen the T-post up, and the T-post should come out. That did not work yesterday. Let me show you what I mean when I say I got a T-post driver, in case you don't know what it is. This is a T-post driver. So this is how I got some of the T-post in, but before that, I was using a mallet, which sucked really bad. And so my thought was I was supposed to be able to take the driver, move it around, it would loosen it up. And while I think it did loosen it up, it did not loosen it up enough for me to get it out. So my son told me just wait and he'll help me on Saturday. But y'all, look at this mess. This is just a complete and utter mess that I am not taking care of, but still putting stuff in. So this is coming down on Saturday. And then that greenhouse, the one that I told you I didn't want to keep, I'm actually going to put it over there and store things in it. So all of that junk that's on that back wall by the larger quick tent greenhouse, I'm going to put that over here, and all of this junk can go in there. And so I got completely off track. But yeah, that's coming down. I don't even know how I started talking about that, y'all. Anyway, but what I wanted to talk about today, though, is the way that I'm fertilizing. And let me just say, before I get into this conversation, that it is a great idea. I've seen it on other channels. I never did it. I probably never will. So it's a great idea. Get your soil tested. Then you know exactly what you need, right? What your soil needs. I haven't done it just because it's just not the way I garden. I keep things very fun in my garden. Honest truth is, I like to try things to see what works. I could go online, I could read things, which, when I first started gardening, that's exactly what I did. But then what I was noticing is I was doing all of this stuff. Some of it was working, some of it wasn't working, some of it I didn't even remember I did. And so now I'm just doing more of, let me see what works for me. So one of the things that I did this year was I dug my raised beds, my block raised beds. And so if you're new here, I have a block raised bed right here, and this is full of kohlrabi and broccoli that's doing great. Oh, and tree collards in the back. Then I have another block raised bed right here. So listen, also gonna tell y'all, quite nervous about doing something that feels teachy, because I never want to tell somebody this is what you should do or this is what works best, because everything is not the same for everybody. So y'all just hang in there with me. I guess I'll get more comfortable doing videos like this. I always get a little nervous, and I always say but you do what's good for you, because I don't want anybody to think I'm telling them what to do. Anyway, this bed is broccoli, kohlrabi, Swiss chard in the back. But over the summer, these beds did horrible. Pretty sure they were compacted. They were also very dry. And one of the things that you read and hear is don't dig the soil. Don't dig the soil because for the environment, it is better if you don't dig your soil. Also, for the soil, they say that that's what helps the microbes in the soil and the life in the soil to do better. Now, here's the thing. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you got to do something else, in my opinion, because I do have beds that I do not dig. I was going to show y'all all of my no-dig beds, but the truth is, all of my beds I don't dig. It's only those two, and then this one right here in front of me, which is also a block bed. You really can't see that it's a block bed right now because the collars are doing so well in it, but this is also a block bed. And so I'm not sure if the blocks have something to do with it, but I'm thinking it's more because these were my first 3 beds. They do not have good soil in them. I don't even know that I put good compost in them. As I learned how to garden, I started learning that in some cases, good soil, good compost matters. And so I grow a lot. I grow very densely in all of my beds. And so I'm thinking, maybe it's the soil that I use in them. So this year, I did dig all 3 of these beds. So I moved the soil around. I added more organic matter. So I put compost in there. I put a good amount of fertilizer in it. I put meal grinds in it, added more compost to it. And the beds are doing great. And so the whole thing that I want to put out there when I'm saying this is you have to do what works for you in your area. And I cannot remember what somebody said. There was someone who told me it was about time to do something. I can't remember. Then someone else said, just pull all the soil out. I'm not doing that. Pulling out soil and replacing soil. What I'm going to do is see what is working, what will work for me. And that's what I did. And so my thought now is every time I go into another season, I will disturb the soil and I will add in the good nutrition. After a while, my thought is I'm not going to have to do that anymore. But for right now, I may have to do that. And I think that it's okay. Because just because something works well for someone else, it does not mean that it's going to work well for me. So with that being said, I dug these beds, I put a bunch of nutrition in the bed, and then I started fertilizing differently. I've said it in my other videos that when I first did my first ever fall garden, I stuck with fish emulsion. Like that's what I fertilized with. And my garden did amazing. My first fall garden did amazing. And then I started hearing other things and watching other people do other things. And then I also was not comparison so much as this person is saving money because the only thing they're using is compost. And then I had to remember they're making great compost where they are. And so for me, I was like, you might have to use actual fertilizer, something that you purchase from the store. And for me, I want to grow my own food. I also love to see all of the green growth. There are things that I love to see. And so last year when I didn't have, really nice leaves, didn't have a really nice harvest, I was like, maybe I should go back to doing what I was doing. And that's what I did this year. And so when I did that, that's how we got to where we are this year, where we have really nice green growth, but we're also getting the actual harvest. So nitrogen, which is what fish emulsion is good for green growth, but just also kind of the overall health of the plant. And there are other things like the potassium, the phosphate, the micronutrients, the macronutrients, all kinds of things that these plants need. And so this year, what I decided is I'm going to go back to what I did when I first started, which was for the first few weeks of these plants' lives. It's been more like a month and a half now because I started planting out at the end of August and then into September. So month and a half, I've only been giving them fish emulsion and then also keeping my soil moist, because one thing that I think in fall, because it's cooler, we don't think about the fact that just because it's cool and the soil is cool, it does not mean the soil is moist. So, of course, I am using a sprinkler. I always use a sprinkler in fall because after I spend hours hand watering in the summer, when I can, I'm going to use a sprinkler. So I use a sprinkler. I put it back here and it gets this side of the garden, and then I put it all the way over by the chicken area and it gets that side of the garden. And I leave it on for a good little while, probably like an hour, but I do that maybe twice, if that, twice a week. And then the garden flourishes, because if the soil is not moist, then it can't even pick up all the nutrients that you're putting into the soil. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I use fish emulsion. It has done amazingly for me. The garden looks great. I will even say, look at these nasturtiums. My nasturtiums didn't get this big in the summer. We've had flowers on these already this fall. Like, I'm really excited about that. But even down to the broccoli, we already have broccoli popping up, y'all. Now, because I'm a curious soul, I'm always curious about something, I decided that for these 2 rows of broccoli in this first block bed, I'm gonna try using a balanced fertilizer just for these 2 back here. So I'm not gonna do anything different over here. As a matter of fact, I've completely stopped fertilizing over here. But over here with these 2 rows of broccoli, I'm using a balanced fertilizer. What I wanna see is, do I get larger heads if I stop doing fish emulsion once I start to see the broccoli heads and then start doing a balanced fertilizer? I wanna see if I get a bigger head. And so I just made that decision yesterday, because a lot of this gardening thing is experimenting. I say that all the time because there's a lot of information out there. It doesn't mean that it's always gonna work for you, and you may have to do something different. And I learned that at this point. But I also respect everybody else's options and the things that they do, because everything is not the same for every garden. Anyway, I'm gonna keep y'all posted on that. But what I will say is, we got nice green leafy growth on these broccolis, and then they started to produce. And my whole thing was, I wanted them to produce before January. In January, in my area, it gets very cold. We can have cold snaps, and everything in this garden could die. So what I was hoping for, and what it looks like is gonna happen, is I'm gonna get my large broccoli heads before we get too cold. Then I'll leave these plants because they give outside shoots. And this is green magic broccoli that's in the garden beds, and I've always had really good success with it, so I'm still using it, although we have a bunch of different varieties in here at this point. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with this fertilizer for my broccoli and my kohlrabi and Swiss chard and collards that's in these beds, because I really need to know for myself now what is working for me in my backyard. And I don't want to be spending a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of different things because I saw it somewhere else, or because it just seems like it's what I should be doing because I read it everywhere on the internet. So yes, let me show you these other broccoli heads, y'all. I'm so happy. So look at that. That's a broccoli head right there. Broccoli head right there. We can go over to this next plant. Broccoli head right there. And that's pretty much every plant in these 2 beds. I also noticed that one of the green Goliath in the bag is also starting to put out a broccoli head. So I'm very excited about that. And next year, I'll know for my backyard that fish emulsion in the first few months is a good idea, and I'm hoping to find out if I will get a better harvest, larger heads, if I decide to start using a balanced fertilizer once I start seeing the broccoli heads. And so like, that's something that I had read, and I literally was like, yeah, I don't see the point. But now I'm like, I definitely do. I think that I do, and I say that because I did it for my peppers and tomatoes this year, and I started to see much more flowers, and then I started to get better production. Now let's just be clear, them peppers was terrible all year long, so I don't know that that was the case. I think for the peppers, I think it has something to do with it, but I also think because the ants and the aphids moved on, that helped too. But let me show you this head in this green Goliath that's in a grow bag. Y'all see that? That's in a grow bag. That's pretty small. Got planted out after the ones that's in the garden bed. I hope y'all can see it. My finger might be in the way. But right there. And that's in a grow bag. So you know what else that tells me? If I didn't have any of these garden beds, I could still grow broccoli. And that's so like, if you're in an area where you can't put out garden beds, grab a grow bag, grab a feed bag, grab anything you can that's gonna hold soil, and then you can also grow. But I do think fertilizer makes a big difference in my backyard. And while I was trying to just do compost, it doesn't work for me. When I did my first garden, I came back and I added granulated fertilizer every so often. And let's just be clear, I didn't really want to do that because it's extra work, right? And I didn't do it for all of the plants. I did it for the Brussels sprouts because Brussels sprouts are very heavy feeders, right? So yesterday I went through and I top dressed. So I just took some fertilizer, put it on the top, and then I worked it into the soil, covered it back up. So what I'm trying to find out here is if 2 months after I plant these very heavy feeders, do I need to go back and put granulated fertilizer on the plant? Will it help any? And the reason why I really want to do that for the Brussels sprouts is because I want these plants to get taller. Brussels sprouts come from armpit or whatever you want to call it, between the leaf and the stem. And so if it's not tall, then I'm not going to get a lot of Brussels sprouts. It's not like a tomato where you have a truss where you're going to get a bunch of flowers on the end of the truss. It is, however tall those plants are, is where you're going to get Brussels sprouts from. So my whole point with that is I want to see if giving them another boost right before, we start to get cold will help. And now Brussels sprouts do like the cold temperatures, but I've mentioned this before, and I guess I need to specify. I'm talking about from my area. The things slow down here. If you live in a warmer area, things may not slow down for you. But in Zone 7B in Virginia, in my backyard, things slow down. And so what I'm hoping for is, as long as I keep this soil moist and they have all of the nutrients that they need to go through this whole entire bed, will I be able to get some taller plants that should hopefully give me some more Brussels sprouts? And we're gonna find out together. Another thing I did is I went ahead and put some stakes in here just to hold them up because some of them are skinnier than others. Why is that the case? Because this is a shaded spot. It's shaded for a large portion of the day, but the Brussels sprouts are still growing because they do get morning sun, a little bit of evening sun. So they're still growing, right? So that's what we're doing. They grew really fast, really quick, and then they kind of stalled. But I do think that is because it got cool here and things started to grow slower. But another part of that could be that they needed some more nutrients. So went ahead and did that with the Brussels sprouts. I also did this yesterday with my cabbages. Cabbages are very heavy feeders and they need moist soil, right? So I came through here yesterday and also did a top dressing on the cabbages. We have one cabbage, baby, that is gonna be a trap crop. I mean, these things that ate them up. And I have not used anything to control it other than picking. But this one, I just stopped picking because I was like, it could be a trap crop. And I think that kind of worked because I'm seeing a lot less pest pressure on these. And so I think it kind of worked. Not this one so much. But like this one is beautiful. And I think I said this one was bolting. I don't think it's bolting. I think it's one of the cabbages that produce a cone. So I don't think it's bolting. But anyway, I did that with the cabbage as well. And I actually have the irrigation on. So I put them in a bed that has irrigation, which I think I said before. And so I'm just trying things. But I'm not just trying things and not keeping track this year. Because y'all know, I'll try things and forget what I even did. I'm not doing that this year. I'm actually keeping track of what I did. I bought an iPad the other day. That's like probably the best purchase that I have made in a while. I bought a very cheap one, but it's an iPad nonetheless. I can write on it and save it, and it goes to my phone. I love that. So that's where I am documenting my processes right now. So yeah, I just wanted to come and kind of say, do what works for you, because you'll never know what works in your area if you only follow what they say you have to do, right? And just because they say you have to do it doesn't mean it's the only thing that works. So I just wanted to put that out there. We're over by the quick tent greenhouse, right? And I want to show you one of the things that a good amount of people said, like, it's too hot to grow that in your greenhouse. But in actuality, that was not the case. And I'm talking about the tomatoes. Like, this one is blushing. I need to probably come and grab it. Anyway, this is a dwarf variety of tomato that has been in here since, I want to say, the spring, y'all. It's been in here since the spring. And a lot of people were like, you can't grow tomatoes in the greenhouse. It's going to be too hot. And they were halfway right because I tried to grow indeterminates in here and it did awful, right? Like, they did absolutely awful. But these dwarf varieties did amazing. And so now I know that even though it's hot in here, I can still grow dwarf varieties and they are actually lasting through the fall, like still going through the fall. And let's not forget these roselle, which, need to put them in a lower bed, but they are growing in here. They are producing in here. A few people did say that they thought this would grow well in here because of the heat. But then other people were worried about it going to the ceiling, and they are on the ceiling. And I probably could cut them, but I just haven't. I think I say it in probably every video if we come in this greenhouse. I just want to see how long this is going to last and if I get to calyxes in here. So yeah. That's all I wanted to tell y'all today. That's it, and that is all. We are still experimenting with these green stalks and whether we can grow them all the way through the fall and the winter. A lot of y'all did tell me that that's what y'all grow in the fall and winter, so I was very excited to hear that since I put everything in there. All of those pockets are filled up. The other thing we're experimenting with is this garlic. So this garlic I planted out in September. Everything tells you that you should plant it out after your last frost because, it needs the cold, right? Which is true. They definitely need the cold to separate, right? But I'm watching people in Texas plant garlic. I'm watching people in Georgia plant garlic, and I never had a good garlic harvest. So why not give something else a try? I'm not doing good following the rules anyway. I don't get a great harvest. They're not big bulbs. So why not try something different? So this year, my experiment is I started planting in September, I planted in October, and I'm going to plant in November. And we're going to find out which one. What is that? Oh, it's a bird trying to get in the chicken area. I didn't know what that was. Anyway, sorry, y'all. So that's the experiment that I'm doing this year. And y'all will see how this comes out. The garlic looks really good right now. I'm planning to cover it with a whole bunch of straw so that it doesn't rot during the winter when we get cold and probably have some snow. But I'm trying that too. The other thing I'm trying, which I have never done before, is I'm trying to propagate blueberries in grow bags over the winter. But I do not plan, doesn't mean I won't, to take them inside of anywhere. But if I come out here and they really need it, I may take them inside of the greenhouse. But yeah, I'm experimenting with that too. Also experimented with these elderberries. Somebody told me to pull the leaves and stuff off. I just haven't gotten around to it. They said that may help. When I watered yesterday, these bags got very moist. And so they're not dead. They're not dead. They just don't look happy. But in a lot of situations when you are transplanting things, the plants don't look happy the first few days or the first week or so. And so we're gonna see what happens. Oh, the other thing that I experimented with this year are the July planted tomatoes. And so what I do know is I can absolutely get to green tomatoes. And these are smaller, but yeah, I can absolutely get to green tomatoes. And there's some more right there, some right here. I don't think I'm gonna get to actual ripened tomatoes. And so now I know that I need to probably plant them in June. So I maybe will do a planting, in late April, early May, and then wait a month and plant till June. That way I can keep tomatoes going all the way through the season. Because I would imagine if they have a month more, because these are blushing, that I could just have tomatoes going. So we're going to try that too next year. So I just wanted to come out here, talk about and the other thing is these beans are still going. Now, they don't look amazing because they haven't had a chance to get really big. But if I had planted these without that shade from the pumpkins, I would still have beans going as well. And I don't use my trellises in fall, so I could pull down whatever is not producing early and plant beans again. I ate some beans out of the freezer last night for dinner. I love homegrown beans. And so I want to learn what works well for me in my area. I want to learn how to keep my harvest going all season long. I know January and February is going to be a mess because it's just very cold. But until then, I want to keep my harvest going. I want to be able to have summer and fall in the same garden with everything still producing. And so that's also what I learned with the peppers this year is aphids and ants, they come around. But it seems that eventually they will leave. That's what happened for me this year. And I still have my pepper plants and they are still producing. So this just the things that I learned. Just want to put it out there for anybody, because I know people say like, I can't grow anything, or I got a black thumb, and that's just not the case. It's an experiment. You have to experiment to see what works well for you, and just because it's a garden rule, just because it works for thousands of others, doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. And it's okay to experiment. Oh, one last thing at the end of this video. Somebody asked me if I figured out why my blood orange was curling, and for me, it seems like it's a watering issue. I gotta get them out of these bags, y'all. So I've been making sure that I get water in these bags. So we still do have a little bit of leaf curl on the new leaves, but in general, they're not curled anymore. So I am thinking, because someone said it was the cold, and that could have something to do with it too, but I also think for me, it was also a watering issue. So I need to get them out of the bags, because bags dry out quicker than like pots or, in ground. So I need to get them out of the bags, but I also need to make sure that I water them, more than I do. Also probably should fertilize, because the newer leaves are coming in very light green. Broke, if you out there. Why is these leaves light green? Do y'all see the new leaves? They're very light green. And I wouldn't be wondering if these leaves were like very young, but these are not super young new growth. This is new growth that's been here for a while, and it's been light green the whole time. Honest truth, I probably need to fertilize them, but I cannot remember when I fertilize them. The granulated fertilizer that I give them, it says every 3 months. I looked at that yesterday. But again, I could just fertilize this plant again and find out. Oh, and one more thing. I have a eucalyptus that was in a bed, and somebody was like, girl, that thing gonna get big. And then somebody else was like, just get rid of it. And I didn't want to get rid of it, because I was like, no, I want this eucalyptus. So what did I do? I put it in a pot, and it's doing amazingly right now. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but it's supposed to be perennial in my area. So I take suggestions, I take tips, I take all of the knowledge that people have, but at the end, I do what I decide I want to do. And that's why I still have this eucalyptus, and I'm excited about it. Also, the grow bags for that citrus. I think there were people who said, like, you shouldn't put it in a grow bag. And I do know I got to get them out of the grow bags, but I do know I can put them in the grow bags in the beginning and then get them out of the grow bags before it's too late. So yeah. Anyway, y'all, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to visit me over on Instagram, where I post about the things going on in my garden almost every day. Bye, y'all.